be a train to revisit the 90s. You know, so much about the 90s means as much to me as it means to you guys. You know, we would leave tapings and try to get to Blockbuster to turn in our videos. Videos before midnight, you know, on a Friday night after having just taped the show. That's what I was doing. I just felt like sharing that reality with people it would create a nice time capsule for people to be able to visit and for me to be able to enjoy too.
Yeah, truly. I also think it's really cool that you got a film and TV degree at UCLA, right?
Yeah.
Did you take a hiatus from acting to go do that, or were you doing them concurrently? I did a little bit of both myself.
I was doing them concurrently. Things definitely slowed down after '98, and I kind of just grew my afro out, and I just wanted to immerse myself in UCLA life. But then I got offered a show on UPN called Grown Ups.
Yeah.
And and I got offered that show. And I'm going to say something that I really, you know, I don't want it to be taken the wrong way because I don't want people to think that I don't espouse education. But I think every kid should try to get into college. I think that's really important. Going through their application process, going to college, but I don't think every kid should stay. You know, just like you had Jacoby Bryant's and people that left early, or you have a one-and-done athlete that leaves after 1 year. And I really, when I do look back at my life, I really wish that I had forgone my college education after my second year, because I had effectively already become a producer on this show, and I didn't get a chance to write as much on the show, and it didn't make any sense that I was going to school to learn what I was already professionally being hired to do. But I was kind of under the pressure of my mom, who just came from a generation that was like, you're going to get your college degree. And it was a generational gap there. You know, my mom and I, we made peace with that. But it's like, Mom, you kind of put a pressure on me that I didn't need from my generation. So I kind of wish I had done 2 years at UCLA, and when UPN came calling, gone ahead and become the producer that I really wanted to be.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, I still think your time at UCLA is a huge accomplishment in and of itself.
Thank you.
Coming from someone who has a business degree and took my time to.
Was that a master's?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I got a bachelor's in business, but I took a little time off from the business, and it's a different reality.
Because the business is just so unforgiving about not being active. You know, you got to look at the business almost like an athlete, you know, that was in the NFL or the NBA or something like that, right? There's no gap years in that. There's very few people that, you know, take a few years off to travel and just come back to the NFL. Like, once that passes you by, you now have, you know, younger people that are going to take your spot. And, you know, you've got famous stories of people like Jennifer Beal and so many others. I don't know if you guys remember who that was. She was the star of Flashdance. But
Jennifer Beal, she's awesome.
Jennifer Beal was like literally the hottest woman in all of Hollywood, and she threw it all back because she wanted to go to Yale. I think it was Yale. I'm not sure. You have to Wikipedia it. But she got accepted to an Ivy League college, and she's a very, very smart woman. But when she came back, they kind of were like, you know, they gave her roles that were not necessarily befitting of who she was, and it was quite the fight to get back to where she was.
Yeah, well, I did want to go back to Grown Ups. How was that being back, like in a comedy show in that environment? When you just step back in those shoes, how was that?
Listen, I talk about that extensively in my book, because this show wasn't what people thought it was. What I was offered and what got filmed were two different things.
That happens a lot.
So I did my best to survive what it was. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think I could have survived it even better, like I said, if I had dropped out of school and really rolled up my sleeves. My passion really has always been being a comedy writing producer. That combination, I always basically wanted to be my showrunner, who was David Duclain for Family Matters. He was, the show wasn't being very well run in the beginning, and in the second season, they went out and they recruited somebody in David Duclain and really turned Family Matters into his baby. So there's always somebody from a writing standpoint that has to be equally invested in the show as much as the stars.
Absolutely. On flip side,
Yes.
which is on Game Show Network, right?
Yep.
And it's airing now, right?
It's also on your local listings, so
There we go,
it's going to be on a local channel near you. It's syndicated across the country.
Yeah, so he's hosting a game show called Flipside, and
Yeah.
it's really fun. And then you also have a book coming out. Your pre-orders are starting next month, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Growing Up Urkel. You can just go to JaleelWhite.com or Amazon, and you can pre-order it. Pre-order means cheaper. Discount. But I'm probably going to do the audio too. So I'm kind of.
You should. Yeah, that would be fun to hear you read it. Yeah.
But it's like I said, you give these offerings and you have mixed feelings about the process because everything's a process. I remember after the first time I read my first draft of my book, I'm like, what the hell is this? I was so depressed. And then I started editing it and really working with the editor, and it only took about a week before I was like, okay, that's a lot better. That's a lot better. But you gotta spit it out at first, It's like
I think you're so brave to do that. Yeah, you gotta get it out. You gotta get it all out and then fine tune it.
So that's what I mean. Just even talking to you and hearing the questions that I'm being asked in my line, that I'm being asked to hear, or the things that I'm being asked to address. I'm seeing the chapter flow in my head, and I'm going, wait a minute, no, okay, it's good. But it's everything. I don't know. It's the thing I miss most about being a kid was working with no expectations. When you're an adult, there's always now expectations around anything that's coming out. What's the financial upside? Even when I said with Big Fat Liar, it's like I didn't care necessarily about the box office at all, but I'd made multi-millions in television, and how much money you've made for a studio on television side doesn't get publicly shared. So because of that, your value gets played with in the business sometimes. If everybody knew that you made this company $2 billion, well, then you'd have a lot more companies lined up to say we want to do business with this guy. So the box office has always kind of applied a value worth to actors. And that's what Big Fat Liar and certain things certain other projects that's what they were supposed to have done for me. Where it's like, okay, now I've been in this that made this much money. I've been in that made this much. That's never been my motivating factor, though, to being part of anything. But unfortunately, as you get older and you're trying to grow your career, having that box office number next to you, it's invaluable. It's huge. Typically for me, like I said, it was always just about, will audiences like this, period. And a diverse audience. I always like doing things that a diverse audience will like. So that's one of the things I love about my game show, too, because it's like a conveyor belt of diversity. I get people from the South, from New York, whatever, and I got to get to know them real quick. And there's a bit of comedy in my game show, too, so I kind of like it.
It doesn't come up to my head, and I know that sounds very cheesy, but we were very, very blessed to work with the legendary Debbie Reynolds, who, was just the most graceful, kind, witty human being who wanted everybody to shine as brightly as they could around her, and we all enjoyed doing it so much. I loved getting to pretend to have magic powers because, I would still love to fly on a broom. How convenient would that be? So there's so much love and good memories from that set that I honestly can't say that I had any cons pop to my head, but I appreciate you including me in the Q&A today.
All right. I appreciate that answer. See if I can top it. Let me see. Pros and cons about Family Matters. I think the number one pro was I got a chance to explore my range as an actor. Some people might argue otherwise, but I know what I was asked to do, and I know the reality was I played Steve, I played Stefan, I played Myrtle, I played Bruce Lee, I played Elvis, I played older versions of myself. I would act in scenes where I was the only person in the scene, where I would do the scene once as one character, go change clothes, come back, and do the scene opposite myself with somebody reading off camera, and trying to remember the nuanced beats that I did in between. And this is before any TikTok technology or anything like that. This is green screen stuff. This is don't cross cameras, not being able to cross yourself on screen. So being able to learn my range like that because I was able to work with somebody who believed in me more than I even believed in myself, and David Duclon. I'll always thank him for that, because there were times, don't forget, that's my puberty too, where I might have been doubting myself, and David would just look at me like I was some kind of NFL quarterback that he just knew was going to punch it in. And I'll always be grateful for that. So learning my range. Another con was being able to do half-hour comedy just at the highest level. There have been some disagreements of late, but I just have such a tremendous respect for Origins. Working for Miller Boyette was a joy. They treated us with respect. They spoiled the heck out of us. We filmed episodes in Paris. No black show had ever filmed in Europe before. We filmed in Orlando. That was an amazing time I'll never forget as well. You kind of are only as good as who you work for in life sometimes on a professional level. If you get to work for the best, people think you're the best. They assume that you're the best, or they assume that there's something special about you because the best picked you. So they were not critically acclaimed. So that's one reason why I probably never won too many awards beyond my Image Awards from the NAACP. But they sure as heck ran a tight ship, and they taught me exactly what it should look like filming a half-hour comedy at the absolute highest level. We were a very, very well-oiled machine. The con, I can really only think of one con. Family Matters was on what channel back then? Anybody knows? ABC, that's right. So as fans, you associate us with ABC. Younger generations just associate us with syndication or having seen us on Hulu or whatnot. But our legacy fans know that we were a part of ABC. The reality was we might have been on ABC, but we were a Warner Brothers show. And I really do wish that somehow I had been able to move my personal business over to Disney ABC more than Warner Brothers, because it would have created more opportunities for me. So I'll put that in proper context for you. Home Improvement was a Touchstone show which is owned by Disney. And so Tim Allen has worked for Disney for 20 years straight. And if you notice, pretty much anything he ever does is for Disney. And so that's because on the books, they had a reason to say, we want to stay in the Tim Allen business. So when Disney and Warner Brothers ceased doing business together, I kind of went with the stepmom that didn't necessarily pay us attention, as opposed to being with Disney, who I love as a company, and keeping things just flowing the way they were flowing. So that was the only con, is I wish I had been more of a Disney employee. It sounds like I'm just, plugging my stuff, but I'm not. I talk about it in my book. Like I really did. I managed to second guess a lot of the questions that you guys would have for me over the years. And you're putting a big smile on my face, because I'm like, man, I hope they enjoy it, because I'm like, I really did answer these questions. I damaged my voice, dude. I spoke to a doctor, and what happens is during puberty, I spoke at the same pitch for extended periods of time. So if the pitch had been going all over the place, I wouldn't have damaged it quite as much. It's been in remission, and I'm fine now, but it was quite the strain. And I went through a period of about age 15 and 16, where I kind of felt like I was really losing it. And I would constantly get network notes, we can't hear him, please be more clear. And it was kind of a scary thing for me to go through it for a period. If I had been an animated character, then perhaps it would have caused less damage, because I wouldn't have had a week's worth of rehearsal to do that. Does that make sense? So if I had been animated like Bart Simpson, then I'd probably still be on the air today, to be quite honest, because I would have found a way to protect the voice and work with voice coaches, because this would have been a voice exercise entirely. But since it wasn't, it was just me going through puberty. It was quite the exercise. So I'm happy I was able to get it under control, work with voice coaches and some nice doctors. Because it's really a sad thing to see somebody who has a talent with their voice ultimately lose their voice. That happens. I won't mention any names, but I've seen some people that's happened to recently and won't tour anymore because their voice was adversely affected. So, yeah, but I damaged my voice. But you know what? I wouldn't do anything differently. It was a great experience, and it was a small sacrifice to make for one hell of a legacy.